That is such a great comment there in the in the private chat. That's such a great comment, Stephanie. So hey everybody, it's Zach Clayton, president and founder Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care. This is Footprints Forward. We welcome you here. And we are waiting for our host to be joining us. So uh-oh. I take it Erin is in Central Time.
Yes, she is.
Oh no. Yeah, okay, because I made the mistake. I thought she was in on East Coast. So so we may have a problem here, guys. But why don't we go on ahead and start out, Stephanie? Why don't you introduce yourself as I try to make up for my misstep here?
All good. Hey, it's a Monday morning, you guys. Good morning, Zach. Good morning, Mr. Z. Nice to see your face. Good morning, Patrick. I'm glad we got, the pre-show chat in there. My name is Stephanie Simoes. Good morning, everyone that might be tuning in. What I do is I work with nonprofit organizations and people year-round to assist with fundraising through One Hope Wine. We are a cause-centered winery out of Napa Valley with over $9.7 million donated to date to over 42,000 different nonprofit organizations. So what I do is I specialize in fundraising, gifting, private wine events, and wine delivery. And what I love the most is when you pour a glass of wine or send someone a gift, it's a really great feeling to know that that bottle made an impact for a nonprofit that's important to you. Yes, you get to select the 501c3 of your choice. Zach and I run a monthly show highlighting smaller nonprofit organizations to help them fundraise, but most importantly, to get their mission out there to more people. So if you're not on our page, Community Pay It Forward, One Hope Fundraiser on Facebook, and you can find that in my link tree as well. It's the link right up at the top. I am also the co-founder of PNS Properties. We're a family-run business that's working to curb the homelessness crisis in our veteran communities. We work with HUD-VASH recipients on housing, and we're working to build veteran communities and housing while providing support and resources. My work through One Hope has inspired me in this direction, hearing where we're really lacking. So that's why this mission is important to me, and I'm really glad to be here. I wear many hats, so feel free to connect with me through my link tree. All of the ways to contact and connect on my socials are right there on that page. Happy Monday.
Well, that sounds great. And the good news is she is available, so she's going to be jumping on here in a minute. She thought she had another 30 minutes to get ready, but phew. So she will be joining us.
Yay.
Mr. Patrick Myers, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
All right, let me switch back here. I'm trying to put on the stream. So my name is Patrick Myers. I am the founder of A Call Edge Global and Consuming Fire Media. And what I do is I just help as many people as humanly possible and get the message of the gospel out on as many platforms as possible. One of the things I do is what you call the Youth Initiative. And the Youth Initiative is a tool for teenagers to be able to do the things that they are called to do, what's inherent in them, and find their own purpose with the tools that we give them. And so it is one of the most amazing things that I've done. Like, we've had our 4th session so far, and just how the teenagers are just opening up about their lives and what's going on in their lives, and you can start to see the healing already start to happen, and then like the idea that they can do things, and the ideas that these teenagers have come up with so far helping a chalk walk, and where they want to do for donations, have people come out and do art on the side on the greenway, helping with the elderly, um, helping with younger kids. Just so many different ideas that they came up with for solutions for themselves for their own time. And so that's one of the things I do with the youth initiative. The other thing I do with Consuming Fire Media is that we do different various podcasts. The first one is the Men's Pit Ministry podcast, and that's we got 2 episodes up on Spotify right now, and they're going to be coming out more and more frequently. And this is just for men that are struggling and going and trying to figure out, how to walk this life out. This is a faith-based thing, so we definitely believe in God, and um, and um, um, and just figuring out how to have a relationship with Him, so we can be better fathers, husbands, brothers, workers, bosses, just you name it. Um, um, we believe that God is the information keeper on how to be those things. Then the second one that I'm doing, that we're getting ready to launch, is called Voices in the Fire. And this is for people that have just been through really, really hard times, and you come and you just share your testimony on how God got you through these things, and just share pretty much your testimony of your life, um, how you got from where you were and overcame whatever difficulty it was that was in your life, and how you got to this point now and walking in victory. So many people can use our testimonies and what we've been through. I'm only made to reach so many people, but you, as a viewer, and every single person in this group, um, we can help. We are individually suited to reach our own group of people. That's how we are created, and so um, Voice in the Fire helps us do that. And we have another one launching too, and I'll talk about that when we get a little more to that point. But this one is for the businesses and local businesses in the area to be able to come on and talk about what it is that they do, how they got there, and stuff like that. So um, those are some, and I go out and I tell as many people about Jesus as I possibly can. So that's who I am. It's Patrick Myers, and I call Ash Global. Glad to be here. Love these guys here. So just glad to have another session with you guys.
We're thrilled to have you, and we're going to get into a very little bit about what we were talking about right before we came on air while we're waiting for our guest to join us, because I think that we made a couple of really good points, and I think that it's something that will help people out a little bit. After we get the introduction from the one, the only, the great Mr. Z. How you doing, my brother?
I am feeling very grateful to see everyone here. Zach, the goddess of the grapes, Steph, and of course the man himself, Patrick. Just want to give you a big kudos to you, Zach, for putting out that fire in a very calm, relaxed, and a very strategic demeanor. You didn't panic, and I'm glad there's always time to move forward in the right community footprints. And it's always great to see your face too, Stephanie, but more importantly, seeing that your organs are back in place, like we're all here today. And of course, Patrick, always great what you're doing. So, with that being said, I sort of have an announcement, but I'll put in my introduction. It's kind of a re announcement or Z announcement. Hello, world. My name is Z, or you can call me Mr. Z. I am a web developer, and I am also a consultant that specializes in helping nonprofits, family owned businesses, veteran owned businesses, and entrepreneurs like yourselves who are looking to announce upcoming events, book online appointments, or accept donations and sell products and services without the use of eBay or Amazon. I also provide a free consultation to those who are looking to get started on their brand new website and to those that have an existing website, but they're not comfortable with the idea of accepting payments, not comfortable with the idea of making changes to the back end of their website, whether it's WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, or even more. I do want to emphasize that I do have a referral program called Z Referral Program. And that is if you refer me to a nonprofit, family owned business, or a veteran owned business, or anyone that is looking to modify, develop, or redevelop a custom website. And once they become a paying client, I will donate $149 towards the community pay it forward or a nonprofit of your choice. So I do want to say thank you very much for having me, and I am certainly looking forward to seeing what we have in store for Community Footprints Forward. Thank you. Back to you, Zach.
Well, thank you so very much, and our guest has just popped on, but I do want to say one thing that's a little bit personal. Yesterday, I want to thank and congratulate my wife Adrian, because she stuck with me for 1 year. Yesterday was our 1 year anniversary, so we went for a drive through the mountains, and we went to go pick up a young man that's a very important part of our life, and we had a great time doing that. So, but I think that the best way to introduce our guest today, Patrick, is with you, because she was a guest of our show a little over a week ago on the wine event, talking about all the stuff that you're doing. You are doing some work with her. So why don't you go on ahead and introduce us to our guest, please?
So this is Erin Davenport. She is amazing. Just when I first met her, she just has an amazing testimony, an amazing story of like where she'd been through and how she got through it. And it was one of those things where, like you guys heard my story, it just captivated me. And then not just that, but it's just the person behind it, behind her story, her resilience and her ability to just overcome and just think about where she is at and where she wants to be. And I found that just very, very inspiring to myself also. And so she's a great friend and has been a very good cheerleader, helping me move forward in the ways that I need to. And so it's my pleasure to welcome her onto the show.
Well, Erin, thank you for putting up with my lack of knowledge on where in this wonderful country you live, and time zone deficiency. I guess if there's one reason to get rid of time zones, well, it's to make people like me a little bit smarter. So, but so welcome to the show, Erin. Thank you very much for joining us. Why don't you take a minute to introduce what you do and to our audience and some of the things that are very important to you personally, please.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for inviting me to be here. And, today the things I'm going to talk about and share are things I haven't shared or talked about before on a format like this, or really beyond, people that are loved ones in private conversations. But I'm really looking forward to being able to just share my story and experience in hopes that it can help so many people who are feeling like they're in the dark right now, or their family members we'll just see what happens, right? Because the world is in such an interesting place as far as a lot of darkness, a lot of people struggling, and just wanting to know that there's hope. So as far as who am I? Well, my name is Erin Davenport. And really, honestly, I'm in a transition in my life right now. So it's really fun and fancy to be like, here's what I do. Here's all this list of things. And that's where I would have been maybe a year ago, but my life has changed so much. Yes, I've been a published author. I've been a part of film. I've been a life coach, but there's a new direction that's taking place in my life right now. and also a stripping of identity that I am not the things that I do. And that's just where I'm at today. So today I am Erin Davenport, and I am unattached to any title or label at this moment. We will see how this journey kind of unfolds over time. And thank you for being with me during this time period where I am going through a transition like that. And I'm just very grateful, honestly, to have the life that I get to live today and to be here with all of you.
Well, we greatly appreciate you joining us. And Erin, you mentioned you're going to be talking about something that it's not going to be very comfortable. And I want to rest assured to you personally, if it gets to be too much and you need to bow out, please do. Just understand that we are going to be try to be here to support you the best we can. One, and we really hope that that people understand the importance of your story, because your story can help so many. So, so saying that, the reason you're on here is you made a comment on our pre-show a couple days ago that you unfortunately have lived through the suicide of somebody very important to you, and that's your sister. Can you tell us a little bit about, please be comfortable in telling, but tell us about your sister and tell us about the problems that she was suffering with.
Yeah, so my sister, she was 2 years younger than me, about 18 months actually. And in my family growing up, she was the other sibling that was also a ginger. So we were always like told we look like twins. People would confuse us. I still don't think we looked similar, but we just had red hair and or just, the unicorns or something. And we just looked, you know, we had our hair color the same, but we grew up honestly just doing everything together. We were like little buddies because of our age difference was so small. And that meant even overlap of friends at times in school. She was more of the type that was musically inclined. So she was playing the piano, very artistic, even from a really young age. I mean, we're talking about grade school and junior high and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes I was jealous because I was not good at the piano. I did not understand any of that kind of stuff. I couldn't memorize a note to save my life, even though I was in it for like 10 years doing music. But it just came so naturally for her. She was great at chemistry and, just mathematics. And really, honestly, we would have a lot of fun as children, which is kind of funny. We would take like IQ tests together. Like, this sounds so nerdy, but we would be doing those kinds of things, like who's smarter than the other. We were kind of like competitive a little bit with things, and she was just really intelligent, really bright, and I always felt like that we understood each other, just in a way that, I don't know, they say that about twins. We weren't twins, but we just kind of clicked on the same page. She would be feeling something or experiencing something, and it was almost as if I could also sense and feel what she was going through. So we were really close. And even when my family couldn't console her or there were things that would go on, she always trusted me, and I was always that safe person to go to where we could have a conversation. And she knew that, I wouldn't tattle on her or as we got older, that she just knew that I would be her friend. And so having this kind of close dynamic growing up, at the same time, she was starting to struggle in her younger years. And I remember, I think I was in 7th grade, and she's, she's 2 grades under me. So she would have been like 5th grade or something like that. I don't remember the exact years, but I just remember my parents saying that she had taken pills and that she had gone to the hospital. I still don't have very good recollection of that. I haven't asked my parents about that since that has occurred. I just haven't thought about it until now. But it was like there was this darkness, like this dark cloud that was following her. And I could sense that even when she was younger, because on one hand, she was this really intelligent, articulate, teacher's pet kind of, person, and has such a big heart, cares about others, doesn't want to see anybody else hurting. And then on the other side, I could tell, struggled with things within herself, and that she was depressed and hurting. And so I remember that happening for her at a very young age. And me, I'm kind of like if something happens, I just kind of my mom says I just dust myself off and just continue running forward, whatever that is. And I noticed her like me continuing to run forward in life and her slowing down is what I noticed. Like there was started to be more of a disconnect. I would go off to college and she would come later but really struggle with that. So she was navigating depression, going to therapy, trying to find a lot of answers to what was going on. And it was when we were both in college together at the same college over in Nebraska. We had moved from Iowa to Nebraska to go to school. And we were there, and she started to get very paranoid. Later, we'd find out that from her diagnosis ended up being schizophrenia, and that she was starting to have like attacks of like seeing things, and she started to become very afraid of the world. Like before, she was like depressed, and I don't know how much of that stuff that maybe she saw things before and was struggling and maybe didn't share it. I'm not sure. But it really hit at around 20 when she was in school. She's going to college for chemistry. That was her major. She was the chemistry lab assistant, and her grades were always straight A's. So she was excelling mentally in that way. But at the same time, she would have these kinds of, it was almost like she was overtaken by her, like by a disease or by darkness. And my sister, I started to slowly from that point forward just see her turn into a different person almost. It's like sometimes she was just fully there, fully cognizant. We would be up to our mischievousness when it comes to playing board games or card games. And, we had like little codes of like telling each other when we're on the same team. Like, I'm not advocating for cheating at card games, but it was kind of like this thing where we just had this kind of connection and had fun with it. And so we had these good times. She loved board games. We always played those kinds of things together as a family and with friends. And she had a lot of friends at the school. A lot of very heart-centered, loving people surrounded her, even though they knew she was navigating some difficult situations. And at the same time, I just saw this decline in her becoming more reckless. And I started to notice that I go to visit her. She had to drop out of school because she couldn't keep up with everything, battling her mind while also trying to, be able to attend classes and wake up in the morning when she's had a mental breakdown all night or something like that. I also noticed, she's battling like spiritually. She was having a hard time too. And it was rough. It was rough to watch because here I am. I'm trying to continue through school, and I'm working really hard. I'm paying for my own education and all this kind of stuff. So I'm really busy and spending the time I can with my sister and with her friend group. Even though she dropped out of school, she still remained friends with people there. She moved across the street from the college so she could try to stay connected because she was fighting. She was trying to fight whatever it is that was going on for her. And she didn't want to let everything go. And I think she knew that if she would just completely isolate, that would have been the worst thing for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she did isolate a lot, but it was such an amazing thing where I could literally walk across campus and show up at her apartment or invite her to something at school. But yeah, she was in and out of psych wards. She had a social worker. She would go to the psych wards and we would visit her. And I always just was just kind of, it almost was like every time I went to see her, she just kind of seemed like worse, or she was scared of people that were there. And that made me more stressed because my sister, again, she's like vegan. She doesn't want to eat any of the animals and hurt them. She's like, just like this really caring, loving person who's always standing up for other people. And then I felt like she was in some ways at risk with very violent behaviors happening around her. And I just had to really release that and honestly just pray for her and just trust that she would be taken care of during that really dark time. And it was really interesting to try to explain that to people because people didn't get it. It's like, where's your sister at? It's like, oh, she's, do I tell them she's in a psych ward? Are people going to judge that? They shouldn't, but are they going to? So it's navigating, being conscious of what she's going through, respecting her privacy, but also she had a lot of friends that were worried for her as well. So being able to be there and comfort them. So when she battled through that a couple years through that time in college and living across the street. And then she ended up going to a psych ward one more time. At this time, I'm also going through some difficult things, and I'm working through some things somewhere else, getting help for my own addictions and struggles. And I get out of that place to get support for my own stuff I'm struggling with. And 2 days later, I get my significant other at the time got a phone call, and it was my mom. And she said, your sister's committed suicide. And it was just really devastating. Because we don't ever expect to get a phone call like that, or maybe we expect it at some point if we know someone's really struggling, but we never want to hear that that's happened or that could be ever possible, especially losing my sister that's like, she was like 18 months apart. Like we did everything together. Every memory I have from my childhood is with my sister. And all of a sudden I hear that she's gone. So I just collapse. I'm at a Barnes and Nobles with my ex-husband, and I just don't even know how to reconcile what's happened. And I remember she had sent me a letter a couple weeks before that, in that she had had a mental breakdown. She had shaved her head. I was like, this is not sounding like this is not going good. Like, this is not good for her. And then I found out that she had, and this has been a part of a forgiveness process. Honestly, with the mental health system, I am just continually like, God help me to forgive. God help me to forgive. No one ever does anything intentionally. They had given her a new medication that was a very high dosage right before she had left, and the side effect was suicidal ideation, and finding that out and just being so upset. And I guess my mom and her were baking cookies, and my stepdad, I won't get into all the details because nobody needs to know all the details, but my stepdad was a cop at the time, and he was getting ready for work, and he had sat his gun on the bed, and my sister knew and had Googled exactly what to do to get it out of the holster, and all of a sudden it went from them making cookies to my sister taking her life. So And I don't know what her final thoughts might have been, but I just hope that she knew she was loved. And I know how depressed she was that she couldn't live a normal life. At least she felt like it. She always wanted to be successful and have a normal life and have children and have a family. And she had said, I can never do any of these things. So being so smart and intelligent to know that the life you're living isn't the life to the fullest. And I think that she had just given up. There were signs maybe that we look back on where she got rid of her dog that was like her best friend and founded a new home. She had just wrecked her car on accident and it was totaled, so she had lost her only way of having freedom. And she had visited my family that she hadn't seen in years, my dad's side of the family. There are all these signs looking back, and I don't even know if she knew that she was doing those things, and maybe she did, but yeah, so I heard about those things that had happened, and I was living out of state, and I came out for the funeral, and I think I spoke even at her funeral just about her and what I appreciated about her. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what I've kind of been navigating through is how to reconcile when someone that is so close that's always supposed to be there is not there, and the memories that I'll never get to make with her, to know that her life was so short, anger at times of like, why did she have to suffer, why was she sick, what could I have done to help her. There's all these thoughts that go through the mind, but I think that it's not able to be understood to a certain degree, and to allow it to be what it is where I'm at today, and to allow myself to grieve when I need to grieve. And it's been, God has used this opportunity of working through my grief. Not that he ever wants us to go through stuff like this, but to really be there for others, because people knew from my school what had happened, and the amount of people after that who had lost someone that was close to them. I've been able to at least tell them, I understand. I can't take away their pain, but that I can be there for them. So I never want anything in my life ever that goes down a dark path to ever have no positive meaning at all at the end of the tunnel. And I'm very adamant about that. Anything that's happened in my life, in the Bible, it says we can count it as all joy and be able to bring something out of it. And it doesn't have to it doesn't have to be that way in order for me to be happy, because I am just going to just trust the process of just life in general. But what a waste it is if I don't, like, right here today, to be able to be like, hey, forever, anybody who's listening right now, if you've been through this, I understand going through the loss of someone that's a family member who's committed suicide. I understand how heavy that is and how painful that is, and to be able to let you know that I know and I understand and you're not alone. So that's what I mean by bringing something out of it.
Let me, first off, Aaron, my heart breaks for you and your family, and I appreciate you sharing your story. One of the things that we always hear, and you mentioned it, after the fact, you guys were seeing potential signs. What were those things before she took her life? Were they just coincidences, or were they just afterthoughts?
Yeah. You mean like
when she was giving away the dog?
Yeah.
Was it, and I really don't want to play this down, because I understand how important, especially the giving away the dog was. because that is one thing that that generally, when someone knows that their life is coming towards an end, they do start giving away things.
Hmm. Yeah.
But you know what? I gave away my toys as a kid, and I had no intention on
Yeah.
losing my life. But so it's not like this is something solely to people. What did it ever raise any red flags at all? Or was it kind of one of those things that you were just like, that's odd, but that's kind of the way she is?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important to discuss because, I mean, if there are people that are listening too, that they're wondering or having awareness of signs of people doing things and just having that in the, not to be paranoid, but in the back of their mind, if they know someone who's struggling. It was out of character because her dog, Elvis, I mean, Elvis was a mess. Elvis would have accidents. She still loved the dog. It was just like, my sister's very clean and tidy, and she had this like chaotic animal, and it was her best friend. And it was the, companion for her daily life. I mean, when she wouldn't leave her apartment, she had the dog. And I think what you're saying is very important to look at because it was out of character. Because for her, as chaotic as the dog was, and as much as everybody kept telling her to get rid of the dog for a long time or get a different one or something, she never would do that. And at some point, within 2 weeks, I think, of when this happened, she had found the dog a new home. And she cares so much, as I said, about others and about people, animals, all that, that I'm sure she wouldn't have wanted the dog just to. I don't think she could reconcile probably if she didn't know what was going to happen with the dog. Um, Even with the car accident, it was very strange because it's like all of a sudden she gets rid of the dog, she gets in a car accident, the car is totaled, that's gone. And I think that might have honestly been a breaking point almost for her as well, because her only sense of freedom, whether she should have been driving honestly or not, was that she had a car, because otherwise she was completely isolated. My family, my mom, and all of them lived a couple hours away. So for her to go see them, my parents are busy. They can't go drive a couple hours, go back, drive, do all this stuff. That was her way of visiting the family. That was her way of going to the grocery store. And it was her lifeline in essence. And so that being gone, I'm sure was extremely devastating because I'd heard how important the car was for her before that. And then as far as visiting my family, she hadn't there some of them are in Texas. So she hadn't gone to Texas in a really long time, like we're talking a decade probably. And she's going down there and going to a, Cowboys game and all this kind of stuff. And it seemed like that there was something there. Also, the fact that she wrote me a letter. She didn't write me letters when she was in psych wards, usually. I think that was like the first time she ever had. And the fact that she wrote me a letter where I was located and was like communicating and found out my address and all this stuff, that kind of spoke to me of something as well. So I think that there needs to be maybe awareness of and I think there sometimes is a denial. I just want to end with this for now. I think there can be a denial sometimes on my part in my situation where you just never want to dream that something so bad could ever happen. That's like, oh, that can't be. That might not be what's happening. Because it is so painful, honestly, to look at and to address, whether I'm conscious I'm doing that or not. But yeah, absolutely. People giving away things that are out of character and things that are really important to them out of the blue, I think is a warning sign.
Aaron, and I don't want to take up all the time here, but let me ask this. And you were talking about, whether the driver's license was a good thing, having the car was a good thing or not. Someone who has the emotional difficulties that your sister had, would public transportation, would that been more of a trigger for her? Would that be one of the reasons why you would want to keep her away from stuff like that? Because I know that just getting on like a public bus, or I traveled to Texas once on the Greyhound whatever stuff.
Yeah.
I don't suffer from things like that, but I was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
it have been problematic for her to be on public transportation?
Yeah, that I think would have been also extremely stressful because there is a sensitivity that is there that's heightened. They say that about people with autism, right? Their
Mm-hmm.
triggers. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was undiagnosed with that as well. But um, that would have given her so much more stress. I just can't even have imagined that for her. So I think there might be kind of like this gap, even as I'm thinking about it, with just like if someone does suffer, you know, how do they have that kind of freedom, but also at the same time not causing more angst and detriment to their life?
Well, again, thank you to you, and my love to your entire family and everything. Patrick.
Yes. Well, we've talked about it before, and like I was in tears when I found out the first time before you told me, and then you know, uh, 'cause a lot of things you're talking about just brings up stuff and remember feeling like that, feeling uh, just really really lost, and there's nothing that like I felt like I could do about it, at the time. And one of the things I would like to say to you, because a lot of just um, I like to say to you, just I think a lot of times the people that survive it, they don't know how to. They have a lot of just thoughts of what they could have done and different things like that. And with everything that you're telling me or you're saying that has happened and other things that I do know, um, when someone's going through things like that, um, I when I used to deal with the teenagers, right? I'm trying to be wise in what I say. When I was dealing with the teenagers, I used to be when there was taking when my best friend took her life and two teenagers were taking their lives, and I used to be very very angry. My daughter was one that was suicidal at the time and was just going through all these things, and I was very angry with her, and I was very frustrated, and it wasn't just angry. I was angry at myself. I was angry at um, all these other things, and then being on the side of it of going through it, right? Um, your sister wouldn't want you to carry any of those things, and I know you know that, but I'm saying it to you because maybe nobody said it to you. Um, from the perspective of surviving it, because my family and everybody else didn't have anything to really do with what was going on with me. Like I knew that they loved me. I knew people loved me, but it was just other darkness that was happening that was that had nothing to do with anybody personally, really. And you're talking about schizophrenia, so you're seeing things, you're hearing things, and then you go into one of those places, and then those places are crazy. I've been there, and whatever you have going on with you, times it 100 when you step into one of those places. It just ramps up because now you're dealing with everybody else's crazy on top of your own. And um, but I can tell you 100%. You know, even with her writing that letter um, and stuff like that, that she loved y'all very much. Um, there's just sometimes just things where we can't just hope runs out, and it's not nothing personal. And and for the people out there, like, what would the question I would have to ask you? And from the survivor side, right? Like you're the survivor of all these events. What would be the thing that you would want most for people to be able, like, what tool would you want people to have to be able to identify these things or be able to stand in the gap? Because there's so much advice out there, right? Um, but when it's on your doorstep, it's a whole like it seems like that advice and all that those resources are never there,
Yeah.
right? That's really like now I have all the resources, right? I didn't have it then. And so what would be the thing, the major things that you would say would be the tools that you would want and you think people should have?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think that just the first thing that comes to mind is that sometimes in my life, and maybe someone else can relate to this, is that we get so busy that we miss being in the moment. And I was so busy with my life, um, all the other things going on, my own problems. I had moved out of state somewhere else. I lost track of staying in touch with my family. It is not my responsibility to caretake and to ensure the safety of everybody else, but it is a responsibility for me to be able to be available and to not, in my case, sometimes I do so much to drown out everything else because it's feeling overwhelming. So I will become a workaholic. I will uh, find other ways to numb out, in the past, especially. And by doing that, I'm doing myself a disservice because I don't want to deal with the reality of what is going on. And also, it's doing others a disservice. And I don't have, I guess you could say, like you said, Patrick, I don't have regret as much as more of an awareness and a way of how do I want to live my life from this point forward when it comes to the people within my life. Am I sweeping things under the rug? If someone's saying I'm having a really hard day or they're sharing something that's close to their heart, am I brushing that off because I'm way too busy because I put too much on my own plate? Do I have excuses? Um, because when it comes down to it, and before, my dad has also passed away, not from suicide. And and I remember telling him, "Are you going to regret that at the end of your life that you didn't work enough or that you didn't spend enough time with your family?" And little did I know a couple years later that he would unexpectedly pass away. And that was always seared into my mind as a reminder of I still have moments today I get so busy and I'm like, wait a second, the thing that is so important in this life are people, are
Yes.
the relationships that I have. And so I would say if anybody's watching and that there are overwhelming situations with family members or loved ones, to maybe push pause and take a moment and to address whatever might be going on or to be available even when you feel like you might be at the end of it, or take that time for yourself so you can recharge and then be available, because sometimes life is it's burdensome, but I do guarantee if we ignore it, that is the last thing that we want to do because the consequences are a lot higher at that point. So, again, we're not here to save anybody. We're not here to be people's superhero. and also we can be present and we can pay attention. So I would say that that is something that's really important that came to my mind. And also the strength, as we've talked about before, is that I have reached out for help. I would say if people are feeling overwhelmed, like my mom, she was a teacher. She was a new teacher doing a new career, and she was essentially became the caretaker of my sister for periods of time of years. And I would say surround yourself if you're caring for someone that's really struggling or there's somebody in your life, ensure that you're asking for help. Ensure that you're bringing in a group of people to help to lighten the burden and to be able to then ensure that you're taking care of what you need to be for yourself. But also, there are different perspectives that people can have around us, that they notice things that we don't notice or may know resources that we may not know about. So those are some things that come to mind just immediately as you ask that question, Patrick.
I have one more for you.
Yeah. Okay.
In what ways can you see, like I know you kind of explained, like, you know, you how you see life differently, but what is the main point of strength that I think that have you gotten out of everything that has happened up until this point? Like, what is the superpower that you walk away with out of this?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. um, with my sister and what has happened through her situation, and as I briefly mentioned with my dad, who also passed away early in my life, it has really helped me to see how precious this life really is that I get to live. And do I remember that every moment of every day? No. But it has really shown me that what do I want to be personally doing with my time? What is the priority of my life? And also it fuels me to help other people because, as you know, many of us have probably walked through something. We can be able to walk with other people who are going through that, and as I shared a moment ago, be able to lighten the burden along with others. It's also deepened my relationship with God, which I threw into the trash a while ago, and I just recently picked it back up, and I was like, wow, this is so precious, because if there is no point to life, then what is the point? And I will tell you that that is what caused me to almost go down the same path as my sister this last year, is when I threw all of my beliefs out the window and there is no purpose to life. Well, then there is no purpose when we kind of have that kind of thinking. And I tell you what, God snatched me out of from the darkness myself this last year. And that now I have a purpose. And the purpose is that I want to be able to be a light in this world that is so dark. And Patrick knows exactly what I mean, because we've had so many conversations about this, and that we have such a short period of time to be here and to ensure that it is well utilized and that we are connecting in a really deep and powerful way, and that there is a light like at the end of the tunnel, not to use a cliche, like there is a purpose of being here. And that is what fuels me to move me forward, and to be able to snatch people or be a part of snatching people out of the darkness. And there are so many ways we can do that in this world, but that is what fuels me today. And it's doing things like this, where there may be someone who's listening right now who is depressed, who has suicidal ideation, who is wondering what is the point of life, and to just say, you know, hold on, there is something there, and cry out for help if you need to, because you know, your life is precious, and the suffering that is there absolutely is there. We have compassion, and that doesn't have to be something that is forever. Like, there is hope, there is a way out. And, you know, for me, it was that surrender of admitting I couldn't do this all on my own. So that's what fuels me, Patrick. And you got me now going on this. I don't want to start like preaching or something, but I will stop there. Okay.
Okay, Stephanie.
Great minds think alike. Patrick kind of stole my question over here. No, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your story. You have incredible strength. I have chills still from when you first started. So my question was, and maybe we can elaborate on it or spin on it a little bit differently, was what really helped you personally to get to this point? Because it took incredible strength for you to come here and share to help others today, right? Like, I don't know that I would have been able to stay as composed as you were in sharing. If there are other listeners watching who are still struggling, who may be in a similar situation, are there suggestions or resources that have helped you to kind of move forward to get to this point after such a great loss? I was going to ask about your faith. You've confirmed you've leaned into your faith.
Yeah.
But were there any organizations maybe that help support you or get you through? Or was it the family around you? Was there anything that kind of stood out to kind of help you through?
Yeah, that's great. There are a lot of people that came together. So I was in college still, and so I had people who understood what I was going through. And I think it's also not isolating myself, because there's a great opportunity at that point to be so sad and depressed and not want people to see me like falling apart, that there is that tendency to be like, oh, let me just go to my dorm room or my apartment or my home and just like close the door. But that's the last thing that we need to be doing in that situation. So as uncomfortable as it is, to really get out there still and to be like, even if it's a text message of, hey, do you want to come over and watch a movie? Or I just need to get out of the house for an hour. Do you want to go to lunch with me? If you have a full plate and you feel so overwhelmed, ask for time off work and ensure that you're doing something that is going to be uplifting for you. So not just to isolate and not to make it worse, but really to look for an avenue of support. One thing that I did do too was, it's just kind of miraculous, but I went down to, someone sponsored me. At that time, there's no way I could have afforded to go to I went to the Meadows, which is a treatment center, but it was for grieving. There's a grieving workshop. It's down in Arizona, and it was a week long. And I went there with a couple other people who were grieving different losses in their life. And so that's something that I can recommend that was very helpful. And it's in a group setting where there are other people working through some really heavy things, and you understand that other people understand. And that was very helpful for me. Also, continuing to not give up on myself. And that meant being open. Because I don't know if there's a one size fits all for everybody, but there are things that come our way that are opportunities. Like, I could have told the person who was going to sponsor me to go to the Meadows, no. I could have said, no, that's uncomfortable. My schedule's busy, or I don't know what that is. But I stayed open. So if someone's going through grieving and having a difficult time, stay open, to what people are offering. Pray about it if you do pray. And ensure that it's something that's actually going to be helpful for you. But the least and most unexpected ways that things have come into my life that I was like, oh, that I've never heard of that before. That doesn't sound helpful. End up being some of the best things for my life. And sometimes it's breaking for me past the stubbornness. I don't know if there's any other stubborn people out there. So yeah, those are some different ways outside of my faith, I would say, that have really given me comfort. And yeah, hopefully that helps somebody.
Mr. Z, and I know that we're running really, really tight on time, but I just want to find out if you have any questions or anything to add. And why don't we go on ahead and also throw in the part where, what have you learned today?
Of course. I want to start off by saying thank you, Aaron, for sharing your story. I know it takes a lot of strength and courage to share your story, and it really means a lot that you're willing to share your story and your relationship with your sister, who was 18 months younger than you, who has accomplished so much, and you both were very close. And you're absolutely right. It's not your responsibility to be everyone's superhero, but it's nice to feel like one. And the fact you're making a huge difference towards those who are experiencing what you went through. And it's nice to know that they could go to someone like yourself that can give them that sense of hope and be the beacon of their life. And, no one ever wants to go through it alone. And, Patrick had mentioned, had he had those resources, things would be a lot more different. And now that you could be the resource that people could listen to, talk to, without having to feel alone in the process. And I don't want to sound cliche, but you are showing them the light to the ways that there's hope. And you brought up some great points about the signs. And I'm no expert by any means, but this is something that I'm going to think about, sort of blending into what have I've learned. One of the biggest signs, I suppose, it's when they're acting out of place. When you have someone who's a all-star athlete, someone who's an expert person who plays the piano or playing instruments, and all of a sudden they lost interest in what they do. That's something that I should probably be on the lookout for when someone's just completely out of place. Um, and I do want to just say that it's very good to know that there are people like yourself that are using your experiences. I don't want to say use, I would say sharing your experiences to help those who don't even know the signs yet. And maybe they have a sibling that they're not so close to because they're very busy with their work. And just take a moment to say, you know what? I wonder how my sister's doing. I wonder how my brother's doing. How's my cousin doing? And I think hearing your story kind of reminds them that, you know, our careers come and go, or some careers will last a long time, but family will stay forever. And my impression of what you're doing, it's phenomenal. And thank goodness that you were able to get that sponsorship towards that retreat,
Hmm.
because it's really hard to find someone who shares the vision that you have. Like many people here, you got Patrick, Zach, Steph, who have that faith in not just helping others, but what others can do to help others. So I do want to say that what you're doing, it's fantastic work. And if I could be so boorish to say, on behalf of everybody here, we're we're so glad that you could share your story, and it's good to learn from people who have experienced it and not finding out until it's too late. And my question for you is, you mentioned that you wrote a book, or if you're an author, uh, if you are an author, what's the name of your book?
Yeah, that's a great. Okay, so it's I brought together other life coaches and like chicken noodle soup for the
Lovely.
soul kind of style. And it's the same concept, I guess, because it's 50 the first book was 52 stories about life coaches who overcame hard times in their life, and it shows that they made it through it. And it's called Short, Sweet, and Sacred. And there's actually three of them on Amazon that you can find there. And people have given really great feedback about how the stories have been uplifting to them during times of, you know, a breast cancer diagnosis. There's some coaches who wrote about that. I share about my dad and him and his passing away and that experience. Uh, there's a lot of stuff in there, something for everybody.
Well, Aaron, thank you. Thank you. Um, again, takes immense strength, and your story is very, very powerful. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the pain that you just went through telling this story, and I hope that it's going to bring the strength to someone else that's out there. Um, I do wholeheartedly believe that this is the one story that proves what our name of this show is, that your sister, you know we wish you would have known that no matter how softly you walk, you always leave footprints.
Yeah.
Look, you're always going to be missed. Okay. And so this proves that point. um I don't want to put you on a spot, but as these guys were asking, what would be the one thing you would tell a family right now that's going through the pain or maybe the fear that they have somebody who they're about ready to lose? What would be the one thing you would tell them?
Hmm. Well, I can speak to that because I have one of my brothers is goes through depression really heavily still to this day. He's someone I still worry about. And what I can say is that just be there for them when they're reaching out. And as Z said earlier, be intentional about reaching out. Also, maybe asking yourself, where can you find your hope? Because if I feel like I have to hold up the universe, that's a lot. That is a lot for anybody to have to do, but I know where I can turn, and I talked about my faith. So what does that look like for you? That you can be able to know that there are resources out there that are even bigger than us that can absolutely orchestrate a miracle in your life. And so I would say that would be something to think about.
Stephanie, what did you learn today?
I just think it's really, really inspiring, Erin, that you're really just trying to bring joy out of hard situations. So I'll leave it with that.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie.
Patrick?
Glory to God. That's what I gotta say, Aaron. Gotta always be intentional about that. So
Yeah.
glory to God.
Yeah.
Glory to God in the highest, for sure. The thing I learned today, we were just talking about this. I had a friend actually. I went back and asked this friend what did you guys experience when I took my life, right? And the one thing that they said to me was they were like kind of teared up. It's like, we didn't know you were right next to us, and we didn't know that you were actually suffering as much as you were. Like when I actually told them what I was going through, I could see that they had no clue. I thought that they did actually, I thought that they did, but they had no clue whatsoever that I was going through so much. And if you're out there and you're struggling with these things, with depression and anxiety and suicide, um, um, you tell somebody. Tell somebody. You see my number right here on the bottom. You can tell me. I'm game. Don't, we're all here for you, to be honest. I don't really like to give my number out so much, you know what I mean? But it's there for a reason. You can email me anything and just reach out and let's have a conversation, and know that someone's in your corner. So just reach out and talk to somebody. And that's something that I'm I really recently learned. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know how much it affected people because they want to know. I didn't know that my friends wanted to know. I didn't know that my family wanted to know. And um, it's not whether or not sometimes people can do something for you or do something about it, because a lot of times the people closest to you, they're not equipped, but they can love you through it and love you unconditionally through it. And that's sometimes the most important thing, because that's one of the things that I felt like I wasn't loved. Um, and it had nothing to do with, I didn't think that they loved me. Was just in a deficit of love in general. And so, Aaron, just thank you. I learned a lot more about you personally as a woman, as a friend, and as a follower of Christ. Just um, the strength that it takes to keep walking forward, and then what God can do as a force multiplier of that strength when you're yielded to Him.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned today.
Ellen, I'm just going to say that, you know what, no matter how busy you are, just remember that whatever you're doing is not as important as finalism. So, if you're too busy to talk to someone, you may never be able to talk to them again. Aaron, I would like to raise or extend an invitation to you to join us whenever you're free. Your story is very powerful, and I think that your message is extremely important. So I'd like to welcome you to come and join us whenever you would like. Just reach out to us. Any of us would benefit from everything that you've went through and are going through now. So I would really like to extend that offer to you. I
Thank
think
you.
that you would definitely do well. Hey, everybody, we ran a little bit over, and I want to thank you guys for watching. And I want to make sure that you guys join us every week as we try to help people navigate this difficult situation, because suicide is final. You know, you can't recover from suicide. Once you're gone, you're gone. So please make sure that you love somebody, because we're showing right now that somebody out here loves you. My name is Zach. For our family, Stephanie Samos, Mr. Z, Patrick, and Aaron, I'm even going to throw you into the family here. We thank you very much, and we will. Yes, and Zephyr, she had to go and make herself be known. But we'd like to thank you, and we will see you next week, right back, right here on Footprints Forward. Thank you very much.